Happy Thursday and welcome back to the You Good Podcast, the podcast where oversharing is encouraged and the thoughts get real. I am your host, C-Rod, and this week we're sitting down with our friend Jon Dugas, who's been a part of our world through fantasy sports, a very potentially scammy sales floor podcast, and now the kind of personal story that takes real strength to talk about for the first time. Welcome to episode 25. I can't do it. We'll do it live. Fuck it. We'll do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live. Let's get into it.
I don't wanna live where I always feel broken. I just wanna live with a heart wide open. I don't ever wanna feel fear anymore. No.
So Franz Wagner, ankle injury and not a knee injury. How do we feel about that?
I'm pretty. It's fine. I just don't know why we can't have nice things,
Well,
and it hurts my heart.
the Magic of old would have lost him for the season. The Magic of new got very lucky that it's only going to be a few weeks, and then he'll be all back to new.
Didn't we literally just get Paulo back?
Yeah, I think he played a few minutes in that game. But it was also double bad for you losing Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Should we talk about mental health and fantasy football again?
I mean, luckily he's not anything important for fantasy football. It's real football that he really matters. Fantasy's irrelevant. I think he's been on my bench, so, and now he gets to trade places with Reed. So,
Since we're talking about fantasy, why don't we introduce today's guest, who happens to be a part of our fantasy football, our fantasy baseball leagues, right? He is a what's the word I'm looking for when it comes to drafting the the baseball draft? A draft
savant.
That's a good one. Draft connoisseur, if you may. But please welcome to the podcast, Jon Dugas. Welcome to the Good Podcast, brother. We appreciate you being here.
Hey, man, I appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely.
Welcome.
We're excited to have another member of the No Fun League and the Kershaw Shank Redemption League here. What's your take on the 2025 fantasy football season?
Some bullshit. Started off great when you drafted a kicker in the first round. That was probably my favorite part, and it sucks that it's been all downhill from there. Injuries. Dude, I want to say that in the group text, showing your team with the your handwritten graphics on
that was brutal.
Possibly the worst auto draft in history. Literally every guy on your team is on the IR at some point. So that's an impressive feat.
I mean, I'm sitting here looking at my draft, the first 11 or 12 rounds of the draft, and it's incredible. I've never had so many people on the IR, let alone all three tight ends with Kraft, Sam Laporta, and Kittle. But then there's Daniels, then there's, Brian Thomas Jr., there's Drake London. It just keeps getting worse and worse.
Bro, you had a squad.
It drafted me. Oh, you'd think so. It look okay. You draft me Tank Bixby, who immediately gets traded and dropped to the bench of irrelevance. It's Ramon. How do you say his name? Ramondre Stevenson, who lost his. Well, he sucks anyways. I hate him, and it's just somehow I have him every year anyways. But whatever. You have to admit.
I was gonna say you draft them all the time.
You guys have to admit, I couldn't have done anything with that lineup the way things shook out. So I'm glad I traded all my draft picks in week 4, and I had a no stress year, and not a single win.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really argue with that. Here I was telling you at the beginning of the year, dude, tough it out. Yeah, all right, you had drafted a kicker in the first round. Hilarity ensued. But the rest of your team outside of running backs was solid. You had depth at receiver and tight end. I was like, dude, you can make something of this. And now, of course, we can't forecast injuries, and especially to that extent. Clearly, if we could, I wouldn't have drafted Mike Evans and Tyreek Hill. But here we are. So that's the beauty of it. That's the fun of it. You draft the team. It's the most exciting night of the year. You know, I'd put that. I rank draft night over actual football opening night like 10 out of 10 times because you're looking forward to it. It's just so much fun.
Yeah, I don't want to relive that trauma of draft night. It was not fun for me.
I mean,
We're not
gave you the option to start over,
so we're not
bro.
gonna. I don't. We're, you know.
It was literally like 3 picks in.
Dugas, who do you think is the most unhinged fantasy general manager in our league?
Unhinged?
Yeah.
Oof.
We've talked about a few people in some of these episodes about the league, and Nick and I have one guy that comes up all the time, but who would you say it is?
Unhinged is Badger, I think. Badger, because of the mind games, the extracurricular.
Fucking mind games. That's a word for them.
I mean, that's what it, dude. He's turned you into a joke, and repeatedly.
We're also not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that either.
It's a good thing there's no graphics here.
It's so insane.
There's a lot of shit talking and things that I've been a part of, and that is probably my least favorite in the existence of all time. And if you're wondering what it is, it's a picture of who? What football player? Like 3 football players?
It's Todd Gurley.
It's just Todd Gurley?
And Stanton.
And
Yeah,
I knew there was
Stanton.
2 guys, yeah. So what is it, me double teaming them or double deep throating them?
No, you
were getting the old Eiffel
you're
Tower
getting spit
treatment.
roasted. Yeah, dude.
There you go. You can tell that I've never actually
roasted.
even taken in the image because every time I see it, I just delete it and I block him.
The image isn't the only thing you were taking in.
Yeah.
So that's how old it is.
In both places.
Todd Gurley and Giancarlo Stanton, heads photoshopped into some big black wiener, and it's me just. Maybe there's multiple wieners. I don't know, but I hate it.
It is, yeah. You getting DP'd, bro.
So great cold open.
You like that?
I don't know where the hell you were going, brother.
Dugas is like, what is this guy doing? It's you know the Bill O'Reilly clip, right?
No, when you mentioned that in the text, I'm like, what is there a O'Reilly clip on what happened with my brother? Like what? Like what are we talking about?
Wait a second. So you don't know the whole fuck it, we'll do it live?
I mean, maybe I knew it without knowing the origin.
Okay.
Because that's where, where the whole, fuck it, we're doing it live.
Where he like just throws his shit. He's just like, fuck it, we're doing it. The prompter isn't it? The prompter's not working.
I think the prompter like skips and he gets pissed off and he's like, we'll do it live, and he's like a political.
It's like, fuck it, we're doing it live.
That's crazy. So when you texted that, I thought that you knew about that, and that's why I named the episode "Doing It Live." So
maybe I knew it without knowing I knew it.
Nicholas, we're gonna do it live this week, and on the fly, I want you to pick a rotational opener. Go.
We did the one where
pick one.
Song.
I
always am gonna do song, bro.
It's like the always Sunny episode. Song or no song.
Song or no song.
Nightman Cometh. Song or no song. Dugas, we usually do a rotational opener of there's 5 of them. Today Nick has chosen his favorite, which is a song this week that has been on repeat, that is either a mood booster for you or just something that drives you, something that just kind of boosts the serotonin.
Damn, I got a couple of them. It depends on if I'm looking for something with lyrics or something without. I would say so. Survival from Eminem is always it's always one that kind of gets me jacked up. And then I don't know if it's corny because of the fantasy or the sports relevance of it, but Narco, Timmy Trumpet, the old Edwin Diaz song. Yeah, that one.
It's
it's
a banger.
I dig it.
Hell yeah, that'll get you going. Go ahead, Nick. I'm trying to think. You caught me off guard, so I can't even think about what song I've been listening to.
There's Spotify again. Always gives me my songs for the most part. And this week it is this band called Bombargo. They're from Canada, but that doesn't matter. That's kind of irrelevant. They're more they feel more American than Canadian.
What does that even mean?
They all have like long hair, and they're like I don't know. I don't know.
Canadians can't have long hair?
I don't know. It just doesn't. They look like Leonard Skinner, but they don't sound like that. So
there's a lot of hockey players that have long hair, and they're Canadian.
I mean, I guess you're right. But anyway, the song's called "Let It Grow."
Let it. Is it like a parody of Frozen?
No. It has nothing to do with "Let It
Go." Hey, Girl Dad, I don't know, kicking in with Have you guys ever heard of Weird Al? I hope so.
Yeah,
of course.
So I have a fun song that I've been listening to with the kids, and they love it. If I asked you what Weird Al song is 13 minutes long, would you know the answer?
Off the top of my head, no.
Albuquerque. Have you ever heard of it?
I think so, yeah.
It's a song story about this kid that hates sauerkraut, and he gets a one-way ticket to Albuquerque, and then when he gets to Albuquerque, there's just like these crazy things that happen and all these stories, and it's like, in Albuquerque. No? Okay. Well, it's a hilarious song. It's 13 minutes long. The kids love it. They laugh at it the entire time. At one point, somebody gets their arms and legs chainsawed off. And it's
easy
great.
For you to say.
Chainsawed off.
Chainsawed off.
So Weird Al. He's funny. He's good. He's fun. He keeps the mood going. I encourage you to listen to him. I remember listening to him in middle school. I think that song came out. And it was like we would listen to it on our Walkman during our... I was in the walking club. I wasn't in the running club. I was in the walking club after school. My fat ass wasn't about to run a mile every day after school.
Hell no.
So before we go live, you know, this episode is going to be... There's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and I wanted to start with Dugas. The first time that we kind of met each other was at this company. You know, it's funny that, one, you're such a big sports guy. Two, we'll get into the sports talk radio and the sports podcasting that you did. But also, this was my first, I don't know if it was for you, but this was my first experience in like the sports sales world at a small company called Total Sports Publications. And I want to ask you, because I have a lot of thoughts and opinions on this, but what do you remember from working at TSP? You know, what were your first impressions of Chuck, of the company itself, of the role? Give me a 30-second spiel on that.
30 seconds, damn.
Fine, more than 30 seconds, but go.
I was going to say, well, I do recall you were actually the first, besides Chuck, you were the first person on the sales floor that I introduced myself to on my first day. I call it what it was, intuition. You just seemed like you were the most approachable guy. And yeah, I remember introducing myself, started talking a little bit.
Really?
And yeah. And so yeah, you're my first friend over at TSP.
That's incredible.
All of 30 seconds. And then you know, of course, there was a cast of characters over there. A lot of good guys, a couple of which I still commune with every once in a while.
Well, Ian was there too. Ian's in our league too.
So, yeah, Ian was there before me, though. I think.
Oh, really?
I don't think I worked there while he was there. But
What is TSP?
I'm trying to think. So it was a sales company that, I mean, we'd essentially sell advertisements in the certain teams, like sports publications that they
like the game
claimed
days
were sold. Yeah, like the
like the game days of the game.
Yeah, the yearbooks. That's right.
Yeah.
They were the yearbooks.
Yeah.
Okay.
That you find at the stadium, and just being sports related, and it was just to kind of piggyback off what you said. It was also my first foray into sales as well. Yeah, no, I mean, it's mostly fond memories. I took a lot of experience from that. Learning the whole sales process was like, you learn more from it than you realize. And it does apply a lot to kind of your day-to-day stuff once you figure it out.
Was that was your first sales job?
Yeah, that was the first time I dived into any kind of sales. And of course, it's one of the hardest ones. Phone sales, cold calling, that was a pain in the dick.
Dude, I came from logistics sales, going to that job. I don't even remember how I found it, but I remember walking into that place thinking that Chuck was the shadiest person I've ever met. That the company Total Sports Publications, wasn't it like owned by another umbrella? Like, it felt so scammy.
I think so. PSP. Professional Sports Publications.
There was like 3 or 4 different titles, and I don't know if you knew Logan.
Yeah, Logan. I was working with Logan at Whiskey Joe's.
Okay.
Down on the causeway, and he got hired first, told me what was going on.
Oh, really?
And I said, well, shit, let me try to get in. Lined everything up with Chuck, had an interview, and the rest is history. I ended up, getting in.
Oh, I see. I had no idea. I remember one day, I think it was Logan, that they like shorted a commission payment. And I just remember it just being like the sketchiest place that I've ever worked. I don't have a lot of memories working there, but I remember you and Logan and Ian and what was that other guy's name? The older dude,
Brad.
Not Brad.
Love Old Man Grip though.
But with the other, there was another. He's been there forever. He's probably still there, anyways. I don't know. It was an early job that I recognized a bad environment. Did you take anything away from working there as kind of your first sales role?
Definitely. Like I said, I mean, learning the sales process and like the mindset that goes into it, I'll give credit where credit's due. And I think, Chuck was instrumental in teaching some of the psychology of sales, because I think he understood it. And so, I mean, I was able to take away lessons on, how, when people are excited to buy, like emotional buying, it's buying something is an emotional impulse, and tapping into that, when you're trying to sell something is, I mean, it's 90% psychological. If you can win somebody over and get them excited about whatever it is you're bringing to the table, you've won the battle. You just got to close it out. And, so that was my first foray into sales, but not my last. And so I took what I learned there and applied it to every different version of sales, whatever I was doing at the time. And because I know you weren't there for that long after I was brought on, maybe a couple months, 3-4 months, something like that. You went on and you left the company and did your own thing. I ended up staying there about 1.5 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, honestly, my overall body of work there was solid. I think over, I don't know, what was it, about 18 months, I had about $180,000 on the board. So averaged about, 10 grand a month in sales. So, but I remember leaving because, it got to a point where I started putting so much pressure on myself to sell and to improve and make money that I stressed myself out. And it was just a month or two ahead of my wedding. And so I'm like trying my best to come up with because I had a big month, like a $50,000 month, a couple months prior, and I wanted to one up that. And I thought I had some really good ideas and some really good pitches out. And then everything that I was working on, like all at the same time, just went quiet. Like I was ghosted by everybody.
Yeah.
I remember it was we were getting towards the end of the selling season for baseball. And, I'm pitching bat companies, because, like bat companies, certain players, high end or high caliber players use a certain brand of bat. So like I'm pitching companies on, hey, get a page, opposite of Jose Altuve, Josh Donaldson, guys who are huge at the time. And I think Donaldson might have been coming off like an MVP year or something like that. And, I had a lot of momentum, and then all of a sudden everything just died all at once. And I was devastated. Like it got to the point where, I'm trying to like breathe life into it. And, I wasn't getting anywhere. So, I mean, there were days like I'd go to work for an hour, and then I'd take a 15-minute break, go out to my car, and just cry.
Damn, dude.
Dude, I was putting so much pressure on myself.
Yeah.
And then
Sales will do that to you. They really will.
Yeah, because I wanted to succeed. And I remember like our last day of selling baseball, I waited for just about everybody to go home. And then I went into Chuck's office and told him I was done. Wow. I was just like, dude, I can't, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
But
that's no way to live.
Especially, when you're young, you're planning your wedding, so you were probably very cash strapped and hoping that you could bring all this money in, to help pay for everything that was about to ensue. And sales sucks. Sales really mentally drains you. Absolutely.
I had to take a break from it. I ended up taking probably like a 5-6 month break from it, and then I dived back in, and I made it harder on myself. I went to go sell home security through ADT.
Oh.
And that was 100% commission based.
Nope.
And I challenged myself. I was like, look, if I can make money doing this, then I can make it. And to my credit, once I got in front of people, I had close to like a 50% sell rate. Like I was closing half the people that I was getting in front of, which is fan-fucking-tastic in the world of sales. The problem was the way ADT was structured. It's so big that they outsource tons of their work and tons of their sales to third-party companies that would routinely undercut me, and which they're not supposed to do. There's rules in place against it, but you got to think those guys are just like me. They're hustling, they're trying to sell, and if they can, find a way in to, line their pockets, they're looking out for number one too.
Yeah. 100%.
And it got to a point where, like I remember I had a month of January. How many days are in January? 30, 31? I forget.
31.
31.
3 grown-ass men don't even know how many days are in January.
I said I didn't. It was 31.
Why are you jerking your microphone off?
I get tripped up on it. Anyway, but out of the 31 days, I had like 22 sales. So I was selling almost every day. But out of those 22 sales, I think I lost 8 of them due to getting undercut and internal competition. And at that point, I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to go out and bust my ass. Straight commission. You only get out what you put into it. And I was tired of getting tore
trust
up.
me, ADT sends me what's it called, application things all the time that they're always hiring. I would never do that ever. What so you had a weird path, a different path. You know, you were talking about being a bartender, you got into sports sales, you went into direct sales. How did you get into radio? What was that kind of transition?
So I was actually working logistics. I got into that after ADT.
You worked at TQL, didn't you?
I did. I worked at TQL.
Did I get you that interview?
I don't think so. God, that was so long ago. What was it, 2016?
I remember having that conversation with you. Either you told me that you got there, or I hooked you up with a hiring manager. I don't know, but I remember you working at TQL too. That's crazy.
Yeah, I did. I was there for about 9 months, and I ended up getting let go from there. Found some other hole-in-the-wall logistics company that was like 8 minutes from my house. They had like one, maybe two other salespeople, and I mean, it was rough compared to TQL, where everything was modern. You had like the most resources at your disposal.
Yeah, they're one of the largest in the nation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
all the tools.
Then going to this hole in the wall, it was tough. It was a tough transition, and I think within the first week or so, I was already over it. So I was just going through the motions, and then I heard an ad on the radio about, hey, do you want to be in sports radio, or do you want to, get paid to talk about sports? Whatever it was. I can't remember what the pitch was. But it was for CSB, the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. And so it hit me that, holy shit, maybe that's something I could do. I would love to get paid to talk about sports. I mean, that's like almost the dream job. I mean, I'm certainly not skilled enough to go out and play them, so why not get paid to talk about it instead? I already do it for free. So, yeah, I called the school up and, did a walkthrough with them, talked to some of the people there, and...
So was it school or was it a job?
It was school. It was, they taught you, it kind of gave you hands-on, practice with, soundboards and brought in lecturers that, from around the area that do different things in radio, television, stuff like that. And,
gotcha.
Yeah.
So that was before, iHeartRadio.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So honestly, it was great because they have lots of connections here locally and nationwide. And, so, I mean, it was commonplace to actually get a job, like an entry-level job while you're still enrolled. Because you're meeting some of these people that are actually hiring managers, that are program directors. I met John Momola there, who was the program director for DAE.
Do you know Ryan Bass?
Yeah.
For the Rays?
And
I went to college with him. He was a bartender. He was one of our fraternities by my fraternity, and he came all the way up, and now he's doing Rays games. So it's absolutely wild. Like, that's his love and his passion.
Yeah, I've met him. I've both in person. We've had him on our old show, or on the station before. Honestly, it was a great way to network and meet professionals in the sporting realm here locally. And so, yeah, I mean, it was expensive, but it was one of those things where shit, am I going to do this and pursue something I'm passionate about? Or am I just going to keep going through the same daily routine, never really caring about what I do. So I took the plunge, and, I'm glad, even though I'm not there now, I'm glad how it all worked out.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've always wished
that's
that I
wild.
could be in sports radio or my mom always said to me, "You should be a sports announcer or a commentator or something like that."
No,
It seems like
you're
a cool job.
trash.
Fuck you, dude. What was it like to work in a radio station? So weren't you, and forgive me if I'm getting this wrong, but weren't you like a producer before you actually came on air as like a side announcer or something?
Yeah.
What did that look like for you?
Yes, well, so I broke into radio over at Beasley Media, just doing promotions. So being on the street team, which is basically nothing more than going out, waving signs, giving free stuff away, and raising attention for whatever station I'm working for that day. Did that. COVID came along. Everybody got furloughed. Post-COVID, I reached out to, oh God, who was it? Actually, so one of my former coworkers at Beasley was doing some producer work at a really small radio station, 8:20 a.m. and said that J.P. Peterson, I don't know if you guys know who he is. He was on DAE for a number of years and one of the more well-known sports personalities in the Tampa Bay area. Anyway, he was doing a show there, and he said, if I wanted to, I can shadow their producer and just kind of learn the ropes. And what had happened was his producer one day just said, "You know what, I'm done." And so he had to cancel the show that day, and he was super pissed about it. He calls me. I remember that day I'm out appliance shopping with my wife. I get a voicemail from JP saying, "Hey, if you want the producer gig, it's yours. Call me. Let me know what you can do, and let's work something out." And so I did. We hammered it out, and I was so green, like complete novice at this stuff. Like I told him, "I'm going to be honest with you. Can I stumble you through a show? Yes. Is it going to be the cleanest thing you've ever seen? Absolutely not." And he's like, "That's fine. Get me on air. We'll work through it. We'll go at your pace." And that's how I initially broke into, being on air as a producer. And honestly, it was just right place, right time with the right person. And I had somebody with my level of experience at that point had literally no business being on air, but especially in a top 20 market. And it was just an opportunity that came along, and it definitely helped build confidence. And, talking into a microphone, like now I can talk into a microphone in front of 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people. I don't care. I can talk into a microphone. I'm perfectly comfortable with that. And that's something that I'd say single digits of the entire population would even have the nerve to try. But with that said, it was a great opportunity. The stuff with JP didn't work out because there were some internal issues with the station. They didn't want to play ball. That's a whole different story. Reached out to John Momola over at DAE, and they didn't have anything for me at the time, but he knew me. He knew who I was, and which was flattering and all. I thought that was pretty cool that I've never talked to this dude in my life, but he knows who I am. Well, actually, I take that back. I saw him at CSB, and I did tell him at one point when he was there, I was like, "One day I'm going to work for you." And it came true. I ended up talking to him a couple months down the line. He says there's an opening for broadcasting Rays games. And if I was interested, they were willing to try me out. So that's how I got in over at iHeart, just doing Rays games at night. And then eventually an opportunity came along where they were going to put together a brand new midday show. They wanted me to be the executive producer for it. And it was with two guys that I looked up to a lot in the, in both the building and the business, and Zach Blobner and Jay Retcher. And like probably two of the finest producers that had come through that building in the last 10 years. And I was getting to learn from both of them and do a show with them. So I was over the moon about it. And that was super cool.
You took this crazy journey, right? And it seems like you always put yourself out there to try that risk reward process. And I really like that, because I couldn't, I've been through a lot of layoffs. I've been through the firings. I've been through the job quittings. I've been through, the kids and the ups and downs. And one thing that I always said to myself was like, I had to do something that was steady. It wasn't going to be taking a risk to go do broadcasting. It wasn't going to be taking a risk to do a direct sales job where it's 100% commission. Like, I've had these opportunities come in front of me and I have ran away from them, been afraid to put myself out there like that. What's one thing from a mental health aspect that you've learned about yourself by putting yourself out there, by taking these risks? Like, what's that like for you, and how do you navigate that?
It goes back to when you asked me, what did I take away from TSP? I do remember Chuck was a big proponent of saying, you don't get what you don't ask for. And so I took that's one of the things I took with me. And it's same thing applies to opportunity. And in radio, like, my particular journey, my personal journey in radio was so laden with luck. Just being at the right place at the right time and getting the right opportunities. But I still had to say yes. And that's something that I've learned as I've gotten older. Yes will open doors. No does nothing but close them. And knowing that I wanted to get in front of a microphone, I wanted to pursue my dream job of getting paid to talk about sports. Getting these opportunities and putting myself in position to be noticed for those opportunities was the only way it was going to happen. So, I mean, they called it a quote unquote unpaid internship, which is, shadowing his JP's old producer. That was literally, I would go over there if I wanted to, and I would watch him do what he does. And I'm sitting there watching him, and I'm thinking, man, I didn't tell him this because I don't want to be rude, but watching him, do his job, and I'm already thinking, I haven't touched this soundboard once, but I'm already better than him. I already know more, and I can do more. And I got the opportunity to prove it when he decided to just up and quit. I took his spot, and within a week or two, JP's telling me, hey, you're already doing more than what I've been dealing with for months prior. So thank you for that.
I love that.
It's just,
that's
I mean,
awesome.
but it's going all in too. You can't be afraid to fail. You can be told no. You get told no every day in all walks of life. You just move on until, like, sales, for example, another thing that I learned from TSP. You can run into 99 no's, but if you get that one yes, it makes everything worth it. So, once again, same thing kind of applies in life in general. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where my mentality was at.
Have you ever taken a creative dream, right? Because it, again, you had these dreams, these opportunities that came in front of you. You said yes. Was there ever a dream that you pushed aside and you said no to because of, I don't know, something going on in life, or just not being ready to fail in public during that opportunity?
Actually, the very same opportunity I was doing at the time. I chose to leave radio because I had my second child on the way, and I was told ahead of time, you don't get into radio because you want money. There's really no money in radio anymore.
Sure. With all the streaming platforms and everything, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very on-demand world, and very little appointment viewing, so to speak, or listening in this case. And so the money, it just isn't there unless you are a very well-established long-time talent. And so someone like me, yeah, I mean, and it was true. Like, I was getting paid barely over minimum wage, and this is with a college degree. Like, I have an AA in, internet, television, and radio broadcasting.
Do you think that you made your money back that you spent to go to school? No.
Well, I mean, not when you factor in, living expenses. And I mean, did I pay it off? Yes. But, and was it worth it? That's hard to say, because from a technical standpoint, there's really nothing I learned at the school that I couldn't have learned on the job. But I will say that the opportunity gave a lot of networking options and opportunities there, and it helped kind of give me a warmer introduction into the business. But
Interesting.
No, like I said, it was having to leave radio because I had to make the big boy decision to get a job that paid better. And I didn't want to leave. Loved what I was doing. I mean, it wasn't without some internal griping, but I can say over at iHeart, the people in that building, it's hard to say for anyone at any job that you truly like everyone that you work with. But there's not one person I can name in that building that I didn't get along with, that I didn't like. Like, everybody, they did such a good job staffing that building. Everybody was pulling in the same direction. And at least now, I'm not going to say there wasn't, I can't speak for anyone else. Just from my point of view, it was a great environment. The company, I have different feelings on. But the people in the building are phenomenal. Yeah. And, it was tough to leave because I made a lot of good relationships both in the building and in the Bay Area, that sporting world as a whole. So I'm thankful for it. It was a great opportunity. I miss it. And if the money was right, I'd dive back in a heartbeat. But they're not going to pay me a fair living wage. And, it's the unfortunate truth of it.
Maybe when the kids get older, it becomes, a late night side gig or side hustle or something like that for you. Passion project, if you may.
I'll never say never. Like I said, I'm still fond of the idea and the people within it. So I'll never say never. But as for right now, that chapter's closed, and I'm happy doing kind of like an MC DJ thing for now. And I mean, I'm working less, getting paid more, and what more can I ask for?
Hot Mike John, right? Hot Mike John, baby.
That was dubbed unto me by JP. He said on my first day that I needed a radio name, and we brainstormed a little bit. He came up with Hot Mike John, and it was the first one that came across that I actually didn't hate. So I was like, you know what, Hot Mike John it is.
There you go. So before we jump into the last segment here, walk us through your own podcast. And, let's just briefly touch on that. How did that become? I think that was during your time in radio, and ultimately, why did it end?
So yeah, I wanted to do a fantasy football podcast, which everybody and their grandmother wants to do one. We all think ourselves are experts. And, but I mean, I've been playing fantasy sports, fantasy football specifically, for this is my 25th year, I think. So I think I started in 2000. And so I've been doing it for most of my life. And, I happen to at least think I'm pretty knowledgeable on the subject. So I figured it was just a natural thing for me to try to do. And, I got to pull some, ideas and some knowledge from my radio job and kind of parlay that into trying to do a podcast. For me, it just didn't work out because I couldn't make the time for it consistently. And for anything to catch on, consistency is key.
Yeah.
And I'll give you guys credit because, I know before the You Good podcast even came to be, you and I had, or you specifically were always at the very least maybe half joking, like, hey, we should put a podcast together. I want to do a podcast. Because I could tell, like, the interest was there. You were asking the right questions. And, I could tell that, yeah, there's some fire to this smoke, Yeah. And so I'm really happy that, dude, you're 25 episodes in, which is
25 episodes,
what,
baby. Next episode will be 6 months.
Halfway
That's
to
awesome.
a year.
But the reason that is because of consistency. You guys have been able to keep up with it and make time for it. And I don't know if it's fair to say I let life get in the way, but it just is what it is. And, I've got a family to help take care of, and I've got a lot of responsibilities with, a baby now. And, of course, the oldest is active and involved in a lot of things. So being a dad and being a husband has taken priority, as it should, but it hasn't allowed me a lot of constant time to be able to put into passion projects like podcasts or things like that. So it just, once again, same thing as radio. I'll never say never. Maybe I dive back into it. But for right now, the timing just isn't right.
Well, I'm very thankful for this wonderful man here that also dedicates his time to help me do it. But I do appreciate that from you. I do.
Good old Papa Cherry.
I don't know, Nick. What do you think? Do you want your weekly sports corner? You can talk about Alex Warren, 40+ receiving every week.
I stopped with that. I stopped trying to bet that. Trying to cash that. It was Tyler. It was Mr. Tyler Warren.
What did I say?
Alex Warren or something? I don't know.
I don't know who the hell.
Who's Alex Warren?
Dude, fun fact. I just heard today there is a non-zero chance Tyler Warren could be an emergency quarterback for the Colts.
I don't doubt it. I mean, he's been under center quite a few times, especially in like Wildcat situations. So.
Alex Warren's the guy that sings "Ordinary."
I really don't know where we're going. That's terrible.
Oh Lord! All right, Nick. Any questions for Dugas around podcasting, sports, TSP? Anything that we haven't covered yet?
Yeah, is podcasting easier than radio?
I'll answer that with a question of my own. In what respect?
I guess in regards of producing an episode, in just that regard, like
from a producer standpoint, I would say live radio is more involved than a podcast because you're doing a lot of different things at once. You're making sure that the guys on air sound good. You're making sure the sound itself, the levels, everything, the technical side of stuff all sounds good. You're answering phone calls. You're doing social media. You're doing, you're wearing like 6 or 7 hats all at once in the span of the show. And so you're constantly busy. And there's a lot to it, but it's a lot like muscle memory. You kind of get used to it. You just learn how to do it, and then you do it well. Podcasting is less involved, but it's all on you. Mm-hmm. You are the one that's putting together all the sound, that's, all the ideas. At least, in radio, I could come up with ideas, but we work together as a team. We're bouncing ideas off of each other on what topics you want to cover for the day. Whereas if you're in a podcast, whether you're doing it yourself or, like the two of you guys doing it, you're coming up with all of it. It's very similar. You're coming up with content ideas. What are we going to cover? What do we want to talk about? And then you make it happen. Just like, hey, we're on this call. We're we're doing it. We're doing it live.
Doing it live.
And,
We're doing it live.
I mean,
I'm glad Dugas actually knows where that comes from now.
thank you for that.
Or, well, you will when we're done.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of similarities, but the beauty of live radio is that it's structured, and there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than when you're just, running your own podcast. But the beauty of podcasting is you are in complete control. You do what you want to do. Nobody's going to tell you otherwise. Podcasts aren't regulated. There is no FCC to worry about. You do and say whatever you want.
YouTube says differently on that.
That's private company, so I can't do much about that. But they can censor you on their platform, but they can't censor you anywhere else. FCC can shut you down, fine you. You say bad words on air and it gets out and enough people complain, then you're looking at a 6-figure fine.
Damn.
So,
yeah.
But
Jesus.
I guess to go back, is it easier? I would say podcasting has its long-term podcasting is harder, because if you want to succeed, you have to put the work in and you have to be consistent, and that's all on you.
Boom. Amen.
Boom. Mic
Hey,
drop.
fucking man.
Hot mic
That's
drop.
not going to work for me, brother.
Hot mic
Not
drop.
work for me, brother. Hot mic John. All right. So for the final segment of this episode, I want to shift to what will be probably the heaviest part, obviously. Probably the second heaviest. Well, the second time we've covered a super heavy topic in our short 6 months of life. But if you're listening, this story does involve murder. It does involve a traumatic sudden loss from John's brother. Today, John is choosing to speak about it publicly for the first time. So I do want to approach this, like we've talked about, John, with compassion, with respect. But obviously, the goal here is to help others who have lived through trauma or unexpected grief. And I want that to kind of be the core theme of how we present this. But, before we get into it, I do want to get from you, like, what do you need people to know before we talk about this?
Honestly, just kind of echoing what you just said. My goal in sharing my story is how, kind of like, just to talk about in an open forum, how people, myself included, deal with, the pain of loss, and especially sudden and violent loss. It's traumatic in its own way, and people react to personal traumas in their own way. Everything is a very personal, I can't think of the right word, but it's a very, I guess, personal is the word, kind of walk through that traumatic journey. And, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways, you can kind of take it. And we'll just cross whatever bridge, when we get there. But, there's overarching, discussions about, gun violence, mental health, once again, the pain of loss and overcoming that, how you deal with grief, things like that. And, yeah, I wanted to take an opportunity to share, publicly for the first time. Just, I guess, my own point of view on it.
So when you texted me, about the idea of coming on here and talking about that, one, I didn't even know you had a brother. And, and when you said to me,
actually.
I had no idea. And, that's probably on me for not digging into our relationship, living it at the surface level. But, one of the things you said to me is even if it's on a podcast or just talking about it in person, you were ready to put this out there, and what does being ready to talk about it, like, what does that even mean from your angle?
Yeah, it's a tricky question. I don't know. I just I'm thinking that, I mean, I've had all of these discussions with myself for the last year and a half. I've talked to myself about everything that's happened, you know, any topic, you know, anything I can think of. Just, I think the reason for it is because when I lost my brother, and I once again, I can't speak for everyone, but at least for me, my first, you know, after the initial shock, you start looking for answers. You try to rationalize things, and there's a lot of puzzle pieces, you know, so to speak, that you try to put the whole picture together, and you try to understand how and why, and because you're left with nothing but questions.
Right.
You know, how could this happen? Why did this happen? And, you know, so you're looking for answers anywhere you can find it. And like I said, I've, you know, had all these internal conversations and discussions and, you know, just my own internal back and forth for, you know, ever since it happened, you know, aside from, you know, occasionally talking about it with friends, family, etc. But, I think maybe it's therapeutic in a way, you know, to just finally get it out, talk about it from or with somebody who's not biased in any way, who doesn't have a previous relationship with my brother, who can look at it and hear, you know, my side of things with a fresh perspective. And then, you know, just once again, for me, just getting it off my chest.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. I have two more questions before, you know, we kind of walk through what the story is about. Before we get into the events, Jon, tell me, you know, about your brother. The first thing that comes to mind for me is, you know, different last names. You know, so I'm wondering how does the relationship to brother, you know, form there, and then tell me about your brother. You know, who was he beyond the story that we're going to get into?
No, absolutely. So, yeah, his name was Chris Themelis. Different last name. He was technically a half brother. We had different fathers, same mother, and he was actually my mom's firstborn. So he was my oldest sibling, and yeah. So I mean, to speak about him, the first thing that comes to mind is total family man. Loved his family. Hardworking, owned a moving company here in Tampa for close to 20 years. Made a great living doing it. Was very successful. One of the most reputable, if not the most reputable moving company in the Bay Area, if you ask me. But put everything that he had into his family and that business. And also, you know, just besides the professional side of things, like, you know, being a business owner, he too loved sports. You know, he and I would rap about sports all the time. And, you know, just, you know, I think back to, you know, the years that, because I went to work for him for a number of years, and just all the time that we spent together, all the inside jokes, all the, you know, just the shared memories, both with family, just with ourselves, whatever, you know, the trips out of state, going, you know, just where it was one-on-one, me and him, you know, bonding time. Because I didn't grow up with him. I technically grew up as an only child. And as I was growing up, you know, because I'm trying to remember the age gap. I think there was like a 13-year gap between the two of us.
Wow.
So he's off doing his own thing, and, you know, I'm still a kid, but we also grew up in different parts of, you know, the country. And so, you know, it wasn't until I moved to Tampa that I really got to build a relationship with him. And that was, you know, back in 2010. But there was a time, especially, you know, in my early mid-20s, you know, when I started working with him and getting to know him more like a brother than a friend, that, you know, I could be walking in Publix beside him. And there was a time then I felt 10 feet tall and bulletproof, you know, just walking next to him. Like, that's my big brother. I idolized him because I was so proud of him for accomplishing, you know, being a business owner and having a family, just doing everything that he was doing. And I was proud to be part of that. So, yeah, that was one of the things that, you know, it stands out, I think, you know, just the consummate family man, and everything that he did was always for the family.
What do you remember about the day, you know, that everything changed? You know, I guess the floor is yours. Go ahead and walk us through your story.
Yes. So Father's Day of last year, so about a year and a half ago, I get a call from my other brother, D, who's up in Massachusetts or thereabouts. And he goes, hey, and it's just his personality. He's pretty even keel like myself. He's like, hey, so last night, our nephew, shot and killed Christos and Becky, who was, you know, his wife, and then was later shot and killed by police who were responding. And literally, that's the first conversation I'm having when I'm waking up on Father's Day. And so, like, there's the initial shock, like,
right.
Like, I know my brother, who, like, this isn't a joke, but, because I know that he would never tell a joke like that.
Right.
But it's still, like, are you shitting me right now? Like, there's the whole disbelief of it. And, you know, so, I mean, we're talking about the details of what happened, which, you know, at that point, not as much was known. So, you know, basically it was that, you know, my nephew, Christos Alexander, who, you know, to kind of put some background on him, definitely had some mental health issues. To me, and this isn't hyperbole, it's not exaggeration, I would call him probably a textbook psychopath. I mean, there were a lot of red flags and warning signs about him.
Such as what?
No real empathy towards, you know, I don't know, other people's misfortune or death in general. So, for example, one of their family cats had passed away at some point, and he didn't blink. Like, he didn't. There was no emotion. There was no mourning. There was no missing the cat. And, you know, it was a beloved family pet, you know, kind of deal.
Sure. You expect a kid to be broken.
Well, yeah, I mean, you expected, like,
yeah, something,
be
a
at
little
least
bit
down.
Some reaction, just any reaction, really.
Yeah, he was completely empathetic about it. And then, but, you know, the most alarming thing was, from an early age, he was completely infatuated with guns. And I don't know where this infatuation came from, but he had this habit of asking a lot of off-the-wall hypotheticals. And I remember after my first son was born, we took him over to my brother's house. You know, I think he was maybe a couple months old. And we wanted to show him off and introduce, you know, my brother Chris to him. And Christos Alexander. So I'll call my brother, for reference, I'll call my brother Chris, and then my nephew Christos.
I think that's what, reading the article, I think that's what threw me off when I asked if that was your biological mother. It was your brother, son, and your brother's wife.
Yes.
Got it.
And so we're over there, and Christos comes up to me and asks, "What would you do if I pointed a gun at your baby's head?" And what the fuck kind of question is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I told him, I was like, I wouldn't let you do that. And this is, 8 years ago? So he would have been 13 at the time, I believe.
That's
12,
insane.
13, somewhere along. And he asked my wife the same thing. And that horrified her. And afterwards we left, she's like, I never want the two of them, like my son and Christos, I never want the two of them to be alone in a room together ever.
Right.
And I agreed. And as he's getting older, throughout the years, just he had this infatuation with the Old West and cowboys and guns, specifically guns.
Did your brother keep guns at all in the house, or?
There were guns, but it was more or less, and I can't say this with complete certainty because I don't know all the dynamics of who the real owner was, but his wife was also interested in guns as well. It would have guns in the house, for protection, just to have them, which nothing wrong with that. But when you have a problem child who is socially, kid's social life was a giant red flag in and of itself.
Socially
yeah,
inept.
He was socially awkward. Yeah, absolutely. He got in trouble at school. Basically had to go to school with other troubled kids, and even that was a nightmare in and of itself. The little bit that I've heard of it, but to keep firearms in a home where the kid is clearly like jonesing for him, and he, they would go to the shooting range and he knew how to shoot a gun. They all did. Hell, I even went with them one day. But the amount of red flags that were there, in my opinion, were overwhelming. And I don't know at what point they stopped, looking at trying to figure out what was wrong with him. Because at first they're thinking, oh, maybe he's autistic. No, he wasn't autistic. I think he was just, like I said, I think he was a psycho. And it turns out that, because he had a strained relationship with his dad, my brother, it came to a head the night before Father's Day last year, and he shot him. And he ended up, from what I understand, one shot put my brother down but didn't finish the job. And then he went, so my sister calls 911. Cops show up. She goes outside, where at first, it's almost like he was holding her hostage, but he didn't have the weapon on him. And, I think there were four or five units that responded that surrounded the house, and everybody's got guns drawn, and she's outside, just, weeping. She's hysterical. Based on totally understandable based off what was going on. My nephew goes inside. While he's inside, the police are begging her, come to us. She wouldn't leave because she knew if she got out of the way, they were going to kill my nephew. And so my nephew went inside. There was another gunshot, presumably to finish my brother off. And then he came outside and shot her execution style in the back of the head. And at that point, that's when police opened fire. One of the officers was shot in the leg. But that's the only injury that I could, from the officer side, that I think was sustained. But they shot him, he managed to crawl back inside the house
What?
and
Yeah.
and later succumb to his injuries. They, the police sent in, after a while, sent in a robot to kind of scout the area, saw my brother, saw my nephew, and then they go in, do what they got to do. But yeah, that's the
God, dude.
that's what happened that night. And
That's terrible, dude.
yeah, I mean, it was tragic and completely senseless. And so, but I mean, it kind of goes back to like, once you learn all that and you kind of like, you put those puzzle pieces together on how things transpired that night, you start to wonder, was there anything that could have been done? Like, how could we have avoided this? And I mean, really, there shouldn't have been guns in that house, but apparently there was at least one. And once again, I can't be completely certain, but I'm about 99% sure that it was my sister-in-law's own personal handgun that she would have kept for her own protection that ended up costing her life, my brother's life, and my nephew's life. And not for a second do I blame guns. Like, the gun didn't pull its own trigger, my crazy ass nephew did. And, so that for anyone who might be thinking of making it political and saying this is a case in point for gun safety, I mean, yeah, there's gun safety rules and laws that, I'm sure we could come up with, but this is more on the mental health side of things than gun safety, I think. But I digress. But yeah, no, I mean, it was a tough, sudden loss.
Did you ever talk to your brother, that night that your nephew said, "What would you do if I put a gun to your baby's head?" Did you ever talk to your brother about that?
My brother was there. He heard him say it. And I mean, he was, discouraged, and he was disparaged from saying stupid shit like that, but it never stopped him. My brother didn't like that stuff. He would never condone it. But, honestly, there just wasn't really anything he could do about it. My nephew was going to think what he was going to think, say what he was going to say. And a lot of times it was just ridiculous stuff like that. I mean, I think he had tremendous anxiety, and, maybe because now I'm just spitballing. Now I'm guessing because I'm not, a professional, medical professional. But, I think that because he'd always ask, like, hey, if somebody broke into your house, would you shoot them? And it's like, on one hand, you don't even want to dignify the question with an answer. Like, dude, get that shit out of here. But every once in a while, I'd indulge. And I'd say, if I had to, I mean, it's not, I don't want to shoot anyone. I don't want to hurt anyone. I never want to find myself in that situation. You try to diffuse it and deflect it. But yeah, he was a psycho. And he was just, I don't know if in his head there was just this, imaginary boogeyman that, he was always scared of something or someone getting into the house, or like, it's almost like he wanted an excuse to shoot somebody. Like, that's the only thing I can think of. He was just so fascinated.
To execute your father, like to shoot your father multiple times and then to execute your mother is just unfathomable. Like that's a dark place.
To a normal person, 100%. And he's just not normal. And we knew, like, when I say we, like, family members knew he wasn't right. And I even told the day of, I told my other brother, I told him, I was like, I want to say I'm shocked, but I'm not surprised. Like, you could see the writing on the wall that something like this was possible, but you can't ever really think that it's actually going to happen. And then when it does, like I said, you mentally, like, I've had to spend all this time making it make sense, at least to me, because if I didn't, it would drive me insane. And it's tough because you're always like, even though I had nothing to do with it, like I wasn't there, I wasn't close, there was nothing I could have done about it, but you still ask yourself, what could I have done about it? How could I have kept this from happening? And the truth is nothing. It was going to happen. It didn't have to happen. You know, I mean, smarter decisions were made, but it did happen. And, you know, like I said, I've had to just kind of compartmentalize all of the events and then break it down like bite-sized things, and just because otherwise, like I said, I'd lose my mind thinking about it, because there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about my brother. And it's 1.5 years after the fact. And, you know, there's a part of me that, of course I miss him. And I'm never not going to miss him, because I'm never going to have the closure of being able to say goodbye properly. And so that's one of the more difficult things that I think, you know, that's part of the pain of loss, like I alluded to earlier. The lack of closure, never being able to properly say goodbye. That hurts. It's like a hole inside. And knowing that I'm going to miss him every day in perpetuity, it sucks. And there are days that I feel guilty for not wanting to miss him. Like, I don't want to think about it, but then I also think, well, I don't want to forget him. I don't want to not think about him. And so it's this weird circle of like psychology of, you know, like, do I feel guilty for not wanting to think about him? Or, you know, do I just accept it, you know, think about it? It's a weird place to be mentally. And
do you think that, like, over time you'll try to get to a space where you only remember the good, you know, the sports talks that you guys had and the working together, right? Everything that you mentioned when I said tell us about your brother. Do you ever think that there'll be a time when you can think about only that and get away from the tragedy, or is that just like such a tragic event that there'll always be a correlation and you won't be able to separate it?
I think the latter. I don't think I'll ever be able to keep the two separate. I mean, I remember him for the great guy that he was, and I'm proud to, you know, have had, you know, those 14 years being close to him. But yeah, I mean, anytime the topic of my brother comes up, good or bad, like, there's always going to be the memory or the shadow of what happened that night, like why he isn't here today.
Yeah, I was going to say,
like,
the fact that he's been taken, you know,
that's exactly it.
Yeah,
the fact that it was such a sudden, violent way to lose somebody. I mean, it's hard enough losing a loved one under more stable circumstances, maybe something longer term like an illness or something like that, where you at least have some time to come to grips with what's going to happen and
prepare for it.
You prepare for it. There's no preparation for this. My preparation was waking up in the morning and hearing bad news. And, you know, and like I said, the worst part, I'll tell you this, you know, before this, I'd lost another brother a few years ago, certainly different circumstances. He allegedly died to COVID. But I remember having a dream about him about a month or so after. And in my dream, I knew he wasn't supposed to be there. And it hurt so bad because like there's the shock of seeing him there. And at that point, like I'm in my dream and I know it's a dream, but I'm in control. It becomes lucid. And it's like, I know that he's dead, but there he is standing in front of me and I can talk to him.
Yeah.
That's brutal. That hurt so bad. And then it happened to me with Chris probably a month or two ago. Well, a couple months ago. I had a dream that he was in it. And right away I knew, you're not supposed to be here. And I remember trying to tell him in my dream, like, dude, you got to get out of the house. This is what's going to happen. And then he laughed at me. He's like, he didn't believe me. And so I don't know if it was some kind of like subconscious rationalization that no matter what I did, it wouldn't change anything. But, oh man, it was brutal.
I couldn't even imagine, like, I mean, I've woken up from nightmares before, but I couldn't imagine something like that. Like that. Like, how do you? I mean, I'm sorry to hear that. You know, that's two brothers you've lost. How do you honor the brothers you've lost, the loved ones you've lost, like without letting this grief define you? Because I mean, a year ago, a year and change, and like I said, this is the first time I'm ever even hearing about, you know, you losing a brother. And then when I go to look at it, I said to you, like, holy shit, it was just last year. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. So to honor my brother Joe, who passed away with COVID, I gave my baby, his middle name is Joseph, in honor of Joe. We named him Barrett Joseph. And, so that was a way of kind of, you know, a tip of the cap, if you will. And then with Chris, like, I'm not having any more kids. There's not going to be any more, middle names after this, but, no, I mean, like I said, I think about him every day. And I can't get away from it, even if I wanted to. Like we had a lot of similarities, just, you know, with the sports, we listen to a lot of the same music. So, I mean, if I'm listening to something on the radio, something's going to come on and it's going to make me think of him. Doesn't help the fact that I had him on my speed dial. So every time I get in the car, his name pops up and I haven't had the heart to take it off.
And you won't.
And
you won't.
I won't. No, yeah. I'm not. I have no inclination to do that. And I don't know, like the rational or, you know, the non-emotional side is just like, well, dude, make space for a new contact.
No.
He's not calling. You're not calling him. Like, make it easy on yourself. But then, of course, you know, it's all emotional. And then it's like, well, no, why? It's almost like if I do that, then I'm trying to forget about it.
Erase memories.
And I don't want that.
Erase a name. I mean, I know that people do that all the time, you know, especially like when they lose parents as we get older, they still keep them in their phone. They keep voicemails. They keep the missed calls. And it's like one of the last digital footprints. Like you think about back in the day when things were gone, like that was it. You didn't really have, unless you kept scrapbooks or pictures or something, but like, we're lucky to live in this time where we have that digital footprint. And, you know, I don't want to sit here and say that you're lucky enough to have him on your speed dial, but it's fortunate that he was there, that you can at least keep that memory of, you know, a happier time.
I don't run from it. Like, I understand the pain. I understand that the realization that no matter what I do, there's nothing in this life that I can do that can change what's already happened. So all I can do is move forward. And it's not always easy. It hasn't always been easy, but I personally deal with grief, I think, better than most. I try to keep that, and I think a lot of it comes from sports. It's just, forget the bad. So you make a bad play, for example, forget about it. Short memory. Go out there, do your job, make the best of it. And I kind of channel that same energy into how I process grief. Like, okay, it happened. There's going to be a time and a place to dwell on it, to grieve, to do whatever it is I got to do. But for right now, life doesn't stop. And I still got a family to take care of. I still have bills to pay. Just because my family suffered something tragic doesn't mean that the world around us is going to stop for us. It doesn't work that way. And so it's a lot of it, I think, is distraction. I just focus on my day to day and try not to kind of lose myself into, in all the thoughts of everything that, surrounds my brother. Now, certain days there are like that because, there are certain days when, especially earlier on, where, 3 days, I think it's 3 days after it happened, I went to his house for the first time. And I saw the blood that was on the floor that soaked. I saw the blood-soaked carpet that was where my brother died. I stood in that very spot and saw right where he died. I saw the blood smeared on the walls from when my nephew crawled in as he was dying, which, fuck him. Personally, there's one positive, and this is emotional, but yeah, if there's one positive that came out of that night, the fucking monster's dead, and I don't have to worry about him hurting anyone else. I use the word monster deliberately because that night, Sheriff Chad Chronister talking to the press, and he called my nephew a monster. And I remember it hurt at first. I was like, man, the audacity of the guy to call my nephew a monster. But then I actually thought about it. I'm like, fuck, he's not wrong. What he did was something only a monster would do.
Yeah.
And, and that was tough, but like seeing, and it wasn't seeing the spot that my brother's final moments, like that's where he spent. That didn't tip me over. What did is when I went into his office, because there was still some work-related stuff that needed to get taken care of. And I went into his office, and I saw a mouse pad of my nephew when he was like 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I lost it.
Because he loved it.
Because
No.
Well, how could the 4-year-old looking at seashells on the beach do what he did? Grow up to be the monster that took my brother away. Fucked me up, man.
I could not imagine, brother. I couldn't. The only thing I'll keep saying is just I admire your strength to talk about it. I admire your strength, to move on, because I know that every day is harder than the next probably. But you have to be proud of yourself for something. So, I ask you, what's one thing that you're proud of how you handled it, or how you've been able to move forward with it? Because, there has to be something that you look at that keeps you going.
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm proud of myself or anything. I mean, I didn't do anything special. I dealt with it. I mean, because I had no choice. Mm-hmm. And that's part of dealing with this unexpected loss, is that it happened and there's no going back. So what choice do you have?
But there's people who can't. There's people who they let grief take over and they spiral down, and they, even if they have a choice to move forward, like you just mentioned, they can't and they don't. And so, like, I say to you, like, I think that's something to be proud of, is just being able to move forward and know that you have to keep moving on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's how I looked at it, is I didn't have a choice. The
Okay.
world was not going to stop because I was sad. And people die every day. And, I mean, even though what happened was near and dear to me, in the grand scheme of things, like I said, life doesn't stop. And I guess kind of putting a little bow on that is, just, and it goes back to the compartmentalization, is just like, I have to take it, bite by bite, little by little. And, I mean, you're right. My mom dealt with it in her way. His dad, like, I mean, everybody around us had their own unique way of dealing with the grief, and some better than others.
Sure.
And, I mean, it's just, I understand not wanting to move on. I don't. Like, I would give next to anything to get 5 minutes with my brother. A real 5 minutes. And it doesn't matter. Like, there is no bargain that can be made. So you have no choice to move on. Like, it's non-negotiable. If you don't move on, then you just, I mean, you're gonna, like you said, you spiral, and life is probably going to get harder on you in the short term until you decide to pull yourself out of it and move on. And even move on, maybe not the best phrase, because I don't know if you ever move on from something like that, but you let it numb, because time will do that. Time numbs it. It never goes away.
Yeah.
Like, a year and a half after the fact, thinking about him every day, it doesn't go away. No. But you just get more numb, more comfortable with the idea that, well, it happened. So I've got bills to pay. I got to go to work today. I got to go bring my kid to school today. Like, that doesn't change. The world's not going to stop, because, once again, like, there's nothing that can be said, nothing that can be done that will ever change the events of that night.
I think it's strength in coping. I don't think it's moving on. I don't think it's not caring about it. I think it's finding strength in coping and acceptance. And, acceptance can be shown in a lot of different ways. But I think acceptance is probably a better word.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a degree of acceptance, because what choice do you have? And it was it took me, I don't know, like, I think I accepted it pretty quick, but just because you accept something doesn't mean you have to like it.
Right.
And that, it's the emotional side of it that, we all, myself, I say we all, but myself specifically, I emotionally, I deal with it pretty well. I have functioned every single day since it happened. I have enough distractions to help with that. Like being a dad, being a husband, being, a worker, it's all part of the formula. I mean, you get your time, to grieve a little bit, but then the world expects you to be like, all right, you had your moment, time to, pick it up and get back on the horse. And that's just the ugly truth of it. And so dealing with grief is, once again, kind of going back to what I said earlier. It's very unique. It's very personal. There's no right or wrong way to do it.
Everybody's going to do it in their own and different way.
Yeah, and death, no matter what shape it comes in, what form it takes, is inevitable. Sometimes you're lucky to be able to plan for it, be able to prepare for it, whether it's your own, whether it's a loved one, whatever. Yeah. And I'm sure that does make things a little bit easier, but I can also say, sometimes it doesn't. I lost my mother-in-law last year too, which she got sick and she just never recovered. And my wife's mother, God rest her soul, Annie, we love her. And she was one of the biggest, it might sound a little corny, but she was definitely one of the biggest role models of my life too, because she was a person that spent her entire life giving her time to others. And she was one of the most selfless people I'd ever had the pleasure of meeting. And losing someone like that makes the world a worse place.
Yeah, for
sure. So
100%.
Last year sucked. And it's still tough missing her because of how involved she was with her grandkids, with my wife.
You lose a lot of family dynamic just in the span of a year.
Oh man. Yeah, absolutely.
It changes so much. And now my wife is in her own way trying to fill that void and do a lot of the same things that her mom did. And like on one hand, I think and that's how she grieves. That's how she deals with it. She tries her best to live up to the standard that her mom set and try to live up to that bar that was set, and tries to be so involved with all the extended family and just, does what she does. And I know it's super tough on her. Actually, we just last month passed the 1-year anniversary of her passing, and that was a tough day for her too. Honestly, both of us, but I'm not gonna try to compare my grief to hers.
Can't compare griefs. That never becomes fun. Comparing grief is not a game you want to play.
No, it's definitely not a pissing contest you want to have.
But I have one question. I have one more question before we kind of wrap things up. And Nick, I wanted to see if there was any other questions that you had, for Jon.
Yeah. How do you stay connected to him, right now, like, or throughout this process?
Music. Music is a big one. We both liked a lot of the same music, and I don't purposely play it on purpose. Like, I like things like similar songs, or songs that we both liked. I like it to be a little more spontaneous. If it comes up, it's me. I don't know. It's just, I think of it as he and I share in a moment.
Right.
Yeah, because there's so many things that I wish I could talk to him about. Like, he'd be over the moon that Trump got reelected, and we'd be talking politics, and we'd be talking sports. He'd be happy that the Patriots are doing so well because they're from Boston, or not Boston, but Massachusetts. So he's a big New England sports fan.
Gross.
And
smart man.
Oh, I know, I hated it. I gave him so much shit for it.
Let's go Sox.
But no, but there was endless banter. That the pop culture stuff. We both love Family Guy, so you could, so many inside jokes, so many references to old episodes. Just funny moments. And I wish I would, like I said, I would do damn near anything to get some of those moments back, just to share them again.
Yeah.
And so I keep that. I think about all the, the good memories, and it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
it's great to remember them, but it stings.
Yeah, the fact that you have to remember it's not a phone call, for sure.
Yeah, there's a finality to it, and nobody was ready for that. Like, that's a dude that should have been around for another 30 years. And he's not, because of bad decisions. But, yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I take some of the likenesses that, or, the shared interest, and they're just spontaneous moments throughout the day.
Is there any specific song that makes you think of him instantly?
Yeah, there's one, Avenged Sevenfold. I know he liked him. Honestly, I don't ever remember hearing this song with him, but I was just listening to, like music one day. There's a song, Avenged Sevenfold, Set Me Free. And for whatever reason, I don't know. I mean, because I had a different Avenged Sevenfold as his ringtone, Hail to the King. And always had that as his ringtone. So I don't know if it was just one day that song specifically spoke to me and just kind of adopted itself as the song that when it comes on, I always think of him. But no, there's stuff like that. Both liked, Godsmack was another band that we listened to quite a bit. Iron Maiden, we were both, metalheads and, classic rock. We would spend hours talking about, the classics and stuff. And so anytime I hear any of that stuff, it's always, just a fond memory.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love
that's
that.
awesome.
I want to obviously take a breath and wrap up with what you want people to walk away with. So if someone's listening that has experienced sudden loss, what do you, I know that you've said a lot, but what do you want to tell them? What do you want to close the show with?
Kind of, some of the things that I mentioned already. If you ever have the unfortunate, not privilege, but, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you lose somebody who's close to you, and it's suddenly, God forbid it's in a similar manner that, I experienced, the grief is inevitable. You just process it. You deal with it in your own individual way. As I mentioned, there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's going to be tough. It won't go away. It's going to feel like a hole in your heart, or just a hole in your being. Something intangible is missing, and you're not going to get it back. And it hurts. It hurts like hell some days, because, whether it be a memory, whether it be literally anything. It's never going to be that far away. It looms like a shadow.
Something good happens, it's going to be a thought,
Yeah. Everything is double-sided now. Like, there could be a silver lining, but then there's always, you fall back to, shit, they're not here anymore. So it's always bittersweet. There is no getting over it. There is no moving on. You deal with it.
Acceptance.
That's it. You accept it for what it is, and you move on. But you get to do that, hopefully, at your own rate, at your own pace. And, there's no making the best of it. Because there is no best of it. It's just, you have to, it's a very bitter pill that you have to swallow, and you get no choice in the matter. You just figure out, you get to decide how you move on, like how you proceed forward. And
that's all you
that's
get to
the personal
do.
side of it.
That's all you get to do.
Because you don't have a choice. You don't have a choice in what happened.
It's just how you deal with it.
I was going to ask you, I was going to say, as someone who has experienced sudden loss as well, what's your final takeaway?
Yeah, no, mine luckily wasn't as traumatic, but it's still sudden all the same. It's just that, like, it doesn't go, it's never gone. It's always, like he was saying, it's always gonna be a thought, like, anytime it's something good, it's gonna be like, oh, great, and then it always ends up coming up. It might not be immediate. It might be, when you're reminiscing. It might be, hours down the road. You're gonna be like, man, I wish this person was there, or I wish I could have experienced that. But it gets easier. That part does, because that time of I wish they were here for it. It gets longer and longer from like the event. It used to be like, oh, right when it happened, I wish they were here. And now it's like, oh, an hour or two later when I'm back home, or it's like, oh, okay, like, yeah, no, that would have been great if they were here, but it does, like, that aspect gets easier, but it's still there, it's, shoot, for me, I'll be 38 next week, 26 years, so I mean, it's still, what I'm saying? It's still a thing, it's just not a debilitating or anything like that thing. It's just a thing. It is what it is. Like you were saying, John, you kind of just have to deal with it. Like that's part of this, right? We get this opportunity to be here, but it's this short amount of time in the grand scheme of things. And the minute we come out, we got an expiration date. So it's I mean, we are a organic thing that decomposes the minute we are born. So you have to live each day like that. Like you don't. Tomorrow's not promised. So love hard. Tell everyone you love them. Because you might not be here.
That's the hardest part, man. Is like you just said, tomorrow's not promised. It's the absolute truth. You never know what's going to happen, and it's so, I'd say it's nigh impossible not to take time for granted, because you don't know. You get comfortable. You get used to a routine. We're creatures of habit.
I got 20 years.
Yeah. And I mean, you can't help but to get comfortable, because who wants to live thinking that tomorrow isn't promised? And that almost sounds like living in fear, which is no way to live. But then when something happens, it catches you off guard. No matter how you can realize and understand and accept that tomorrow's not promised, but you still never expect it to happen to you or a loved one. And yeah, that's where the grief is, the sudden stripping of something so near and dear to you that there's no closure. And that's one of the things that hurts the most, is that there's no goodbye. It's they're gone, whether you like it or not.
That's why you got to make sure that everyone knows how you feel. It's just,
Oh, for sure. That's a positive message for sure.
Tell people you love them.
Well, no, that's like, don't leave it for tomorrow. Like,
You're right.
Well, and at the end of the day, too, Dugas, we appreciate you, sharing the story with us. It was definitely an intriguing story. I was captivated to understand what happened. But I applaud you in, one, putting it out there, and two, we thank you, so much for coming on and being a guest. It was wonderful to kind of start at the beginning, walk through your radio journey, and end things on a heavier note, but a real note. And just want to thank you from Nick and I.
No, man, and honestly, thank you for just giving me the platform to talk about it. I hope that, even though it's an ugly story, that somebody, I mean, it sucks that there are people out there who can relate. I kind of wish that wasn't the case, but it is. I hope that if anyone who has ever walked in my shoes or has dealt with something similar can take anything away from it, that, hey, as tragic as something like this is, I know I'm not the first person to lose a brother due to gun violence. Yeah. I'm not going to be the last. There's people out there who share similar pain, similar loss, and we all have to eventually accept it and find the strength to move on. So if I can do it, I think anyone else can too.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you, brother. And, Nick, any last words? I know I've asked that a million times, but.
No, I just, I appreciate you, man, for coming on and sharing your story. I really didn't know the extent of it until today. And, thank you for sharing. I'm sure someone out there listening will, get something from this. No doubt.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys both once again for the opportunity.
So thank you for listening today, especially to the parts that were not easy, that were heavy. If any part of today's episode hits home, please share it with a friend. Tag us at CrodSpod on Instagram. These are the conversations that we need help. We need your help to keep going. We drop new episodes every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. We are live on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. If you have a story, a topic, or just need to vent, you can email us at crodspod@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. We are here to talk to or to talk for you. Our safe space is your outlet. I do want to make a note that if you've experienced sudden loss, trauma, if you are struggling with mental health, that you do not have to go through it alone. There are outlets out there. We have talked about the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 998, but there's also the crisis text line. You can text home to 741-741. There's also the National Alliance on Mental Illness at 800-950-NAMI. No matter what you're carrying, there is someone who can talk to you anytime, any day, whether it be a professional or a friend. And I just want to close out the episode by saying we will see you next week. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and love one another.
We're not perfect. Them demons watching, but they will not stop.